Oh boy. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. I got I think I got something to say here, guys. I gotta say something here. Okay. We're just I'm doing phone checks, make sure I have everything. Yeah. Actually, if the standings could update, yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay. We're set, boys. What up, Suns fans? Suns lose two in a row. This time, the Suns tormentors are the Detroit Pistons, who are now 12 and 17 on the season. And final score 133 to a Suns measly 125. There's a lot to talk about in this game, and I have a lot to say about this game, where the Suns are going, and how what they just need to generally improve. We'll be right back in a second.
Gorgeous move for Bradley Beal.
Personally, I feel like that brother needed help.
Devin Booker with the clutch three.
The deed has been done. If this is your first time around these parts, you may have not noticed I got this sign back here. If you've been with us before throughout this season, you've also noticed this sign before that I've always had behind me indicating Suns meltdowns. And it changed a lot during that 2023 2024 general season that we had last year. And so far, the Suns looked good coming into this year's 2024-2025 season. And honestly, I was really hesitant in changing that. I feel like there could have been different milestones where I could have changed it, but this game is the straw that breaks the camel's back, in my opinion. Okay, so the meltdown. It has been 0 days since the Suns last had a meltdown, boys. It's not so much. Let's just clear this up first. The Detroit Pistons did not bankrupt the Suns. Okay, this isn't season ending. There's still many opportunities, and the Suns very much need to improve in several categories. There's so many problems on this team that they need to get better in if they want to be able to compete towards the end of the season. But this game, I look at it as it was just, one too many in a series of long building problems that the Suns have had in the last couple of games. If you've been a long time listener, you've been hearing me complaining about these same problems every time, and eventually it has to reach a point. And I believe that's where it hit tonight. As one of the first big failures of tonight being a Suns nightmare was that first quarter. If you did not watch the game, or if you did, you had the displeasure to either hear or watch this first quarter go down as the Suns allowed the Detroit Pistons to an early 40-point quarter. 40-point quarters don't happen every day. All right. I know some of us are still along with the stigma that the Detroit Pistons are a bad team, and to some extent they are. But you also have to recognize that while the Detroit Pistons were really good tonight, they very little, they very not that much didn't show that much weakness tonight that the Suns could exploit. The Detroit Pistons are a good team now, okay? And if you don't know that now, give them respect now, okay? It's just simply how it goes. I simply thought the Suns were a better team a while ago when I predicted that we'd win this game. Um, but times have clearly changed as this team has clearly failed to reach the mark, just the standard, over and over again. So, Detroit Pistons, good team now. All right. We could all settle on that. If you think it's embarrassing, if this game is an embarrassment to you, I'm going to just put that away right quick because the Boston Celtics also allowed Detroit Pistons to have 120 points. Sure, they didn't allow 130, but that just goes to the testament that the Pistons are really no pushovers this season compared to last season. So that it's not as much of an embarrassment. But still, this is still a bad loss by the Suns. As 41 points just to the Pistons in that first quarter was embarrassing. Embarrassing the way the Suns showed up in that first. All right. Don't believe me. We had six turnovers to start this game. There's the continuing issue that the Suns have had in recent games. It was a big game, a big issue that I emphasized against the Indiana Pacers game that we recently just had. All those turnovers that that just allowed the Pacers to keep blasting the Suns back. And this game was no different as six turnovers to start the first quarter, which in just the first quarter is insane style. And the Suns ended the night with 19 turnovers. Still bad. It got slightly better over the course of the game because I bet Coach Bud had to scream it into the guys' ears. I'm pretty sure this would be like a Vogel situation last year, kind of like how he shouted at the team at halftime during that Clippers collapse that we had last year at the end of the season. Um, but turnovers, huge problem. And quite simply, the Pistons have a new style of basketball that they have been exceeding at, and pretty much is the basis and fundamental for for any team rebuilding. If you want to build, you need young, competitive, aggressive, and you just need that hustle to eke out wins against this, like kind of like the Goliaths against the Davids in the sports world. This is an upset in many different ways, and that first quarter was really bad. The Suns looked pathetic. The game just had started, and KD looked like he was already giving up. To their credit, Pistons came out and played their brand of basketball simply, and the Suns had nothing to say about it the whole game, as that first quarter was simply disastrous. Terrible and terrible. KD, he tried his best during that. He definitely looked pissed. He looked freaking mad, and I don't blame him. I could be reading that wrong, but I don't blame him being mad. He should be mad in that first quarter because how awfully the Suns were playing, and just aggressive the Pistons were. They were constantly stealing the ball. The Suns were not only turning it over, but they're stealing it and were able to pass the ball and to multiple lobs in that first quarter. Who lobs that many times in the first quarter unless you're like the Lob City Clippers or something? Like it was really bad. Let me just emphasize this. It was bad. All right. The uh, Pistons, 41 points in that first quarter. Phoenix, 26 in that first quarter. Really, really bad. That's almost a 20-point advantage at the end of the first quarter alone. Now, credit to the Suns here. I'm going to change a little leaf. They did get a little better. They definitely came out that second quarter a lot more defensive, but that still doesn't excuse that freaking disastrous first quarter. And Suns just even if they still had a better second quarter, but I believe looking at this thing at this graph, the Suns never led except the very beginnings of this game. The Suns never led this game. That's a huge concerning factor when you have KD, Bill, and Bill. Yeah, Book sat out his first game tonight, and it just continues to show that the Suns are inept at taking care of the ball and are just immune to really aggressive defenses. And it really showed tonight. I cannot express to you guys how bad this first quarter. So that's about it. The Suns did get better as the game went on, but eventually the Suns hit another roadblock, and this is the second point to why I believe tonight is a meltdown is the third quarter. Suns traditionally, especially in these last couple of games, I've neglected to mention it. I mean, I think I made a couple comments about it every now and then, but it proves it tonight as the Suns have been having bad third quarters as of late. It's also started to cause some dread within the Suns community of the third quarter. They're kind of like the new fourth quarter that the Suns had last year, um, but now the third quarter. And I think that is simply because the Suns are refusing to learn from their mistakes. I've been saying for a while now, and I think I've been getting at it, picking at this point for a little bit over these last couple of Suns games, is that there's just something fundamentally wrong on this Suns team. This roster is fine, but somehow we're still losing with Book, Beal, and KD. Some of Sometimes all three of them together, sometimes just two of those three. Right? This shouldn't be happening. This has to be something fundamentally wrong with the Phoenix Suns. And I think recently a lot of Suns fans have maybe found that out as I recently came across a post going over the plus and minuses of each lineup that we've had last season. And shockingly, the starting lineup, the one starting lineup where the Suns have basically sacrificed everything for this last couple of years, this all in mentality that we've been having to get to bring KD to Phoenix, to have Bill in Phoenix, this all in just to form this one starting lineup with now Tyus, that was supposed to be better than last year without having a point guard. That is like one of our worst lineups. All right. If you literally look at the numbers, the net rating on that starting lineup is pretty bad. Now that rating starts to change when you start adding more bench players. For example, this is starting to get into a hot topic where Beal might have to switch to the bench. I mean, you're not going to push KD to the bench. You're not going to push Book to the bench. So Beal is kind of like the only one that would fit this scenario, and he could thrive in it. All right, we've seen a lot of stats and a lot of cases where the Suns have been able to hold their own with Beal being a leader on the bench, with the bench, I should say. But he has never started the game on the bench, whether that be because of ego or because Coach Bud is just too nice to our starters. It's costing us. These are specific point, like very special points, especially at the beginning of the first quarter, that literally sets the stage for the whole game. And the third quarter, where the Suns have been struggling recently. Notice how both of those quarters start with the starting lineup. And if our starting lineup sucks, then we have a bad start to both of those quarters. It's a concerning factor that as we go on is going to need to change. Whether it's that change involves a Jimmy Butler trade, which will be to we'll see in the future, or if Beal just needs to go to the bench. Um, the Suns need to change that. This is the fundamental change that I'm talking about here. The Suns need a change at that starting lineup because it's statistically hurting us every time that we start that lineup. It's just not good in concept on paper and on the court. Okay? And whether or not the Suns make that change to us Suns fan, I'm just a Suns fan. All right. I literally have no power in what the Suns front office or coach will do. But I'm just saying here that this is literally a problem on the Suns. And if they continue to run this lineup, it's going to have dire effects. Now, when I say change, I don't mean like trading Beal, like getting him off this team. I still like Bill. I think he's putting up a great season on this team, right? He's been great defensively. He hasn't been like shut down, lockdown, DPOY candidate, but he's average, and he does a good enough job defending. I would love to see him a little more aggressive on offense, and I think he could find that while being on the bench. Um, so I like Bill on this team. It's just I don't think he fits with the starting lineup, and we've had this discussion for a while now, and it's got even worse now that Tyus is here. So we have this three guard lineup. It's just not working anymore, defensively or offensively. It's a big problem. So the Suns don't need to go make a trade just to have this change that I'm saying. Uh, Literally, if we're getting philosophical here, every day is an opportunity for change. I guess you could say, right? Every day you have an opportunity to go and change something about yourself for the better or for the worse. Either way, you have that choice. And the Suns, you don't have to go out and make a blockbuster trade. Is essentially what I'm saying here. Just try out. I mean, the stats are already there. Like we've played enough time where we're a good chunk into the season enough where the Suns can take a look at the stats and decide if they want to make an internal change. But as of right now, the answer on the wall is that it's simply not working. Something needs to change, and it's that starting lineup. Okay? Whether it's Beal waiving his no trade clause or it's Beal accepting to go to the bench. Either way, that is what the Suns need to do. And that starting lineup basically continues to hurt the Suns, not only every game, but in this game as well. As that first quarter, I already mentioned, disastrous. But that third quarter, we just needed to get started. We had a good run to end the second quarter, and we needed to continue it into the third. But the only reason stopping us is because of principle. Like for some reason, it's always principle, like an unwritten rule or something, that the Suns just at the end of half or at the start of the third quarter, you just got to throw out your starting lineup again. Like I don't know what it is. Unless someone's injured, you maybe throw in someone to like uh just fill in their spots. But it's always the starting lineup again, and our starting lineup's pretty bad. So there you have it. We have had a bad first quarter, a lot of bad first quarters recently, and this could explain why the third quarter issue is such a problem for the Suns. Whew. All right. And as this game has went on into the later second half, the Suns still just couldn't improve. If we're taking a look back at this game, um, the Suns just simply could not get a stop on the Pistons. The Pistons definitely looked a little more tired in the second half, um, but it was just never a thing that the Suns fully took advantage of and exploited, as in any chance they had to get on the run or just like start anything to bring this Suns team back into the game, it was always thwarted by either a bad shot or just another turnover, frankly. So that prevented the Suns from ever getting back in this game. It was always stuck at like a 5 point lead for Detroit. It was finally broke in that fourth quarter, um, but not for long. And that fourth quarter, that was quite messy. The Suns technically won that fourth quarter by 1 point, but that fourth quarter by itself, the refs weren't helping. All right, let's just get that out of the way. Intentional or not, the refs intention or unintentionally, accidentally, whatever. That's a conversation for another day. But they literally helped the Pistons in sealing this game with a bunch of wild calls to end that quarter. Um, that was disastrous. And then you have that one head ref that always likes to make a show and his delivery when he's calling a challenge. whatever. That's just something uh, that just also didn't help the Suns. Is that the refs were also creating some bogus calls. But I mean, the refs weren't completely the problem tonight, as they were. They were a little questionable at the end of this game, but the Suns still are the problem themselves. As just fundamentally, the way this team's built is awful, and this could relate into another point into why this team seems so cursed with injuries. Is because we're so short. In today's basketball, playing this aggressive style of defense is really hard for guys like Grayson Allen or even Tyus Jones, who are below 6'5" or 6'6". I mean, there's kind of a golden spot there where it's like, okay, you're still short from other guys, but like it's satisfactory enough. And Royce O'Neal and Book kind of fall into that spot. But you have guys like Monte Morris, Tyus Jones, and um, Grayson Allen, who fall into these kind of dark areas where they're like too short. Josh Okogie's also there as well. Um, to really play adequate defense. And that translates to more fouls and injuries, as unfortunately tonight, Grayson Allen was hit in the back of the head while trying to box out Simon Fortunato. I believe I said that name right, but whatever. He was trying to box him out, and he got hit in the back of the head, and he had to go to the locker room, which looked really bad. So I believe they had an early diagnosis and called it a concussion. So that is really bad. And then there's also another part of this game where Bradley Bill went up for a fast break dunk and he hit the floor really hard. Like it was one of those ugly freaking unfinished. He did get the basket because Cade like challenged him during that, but Bill had a hard fall. And that just goes back to the way this team is built. I mean, we have like 5 players that are under that little Goldilocks zone, I would say, of being too short, 6 foot and under, 6'5", 6'6", and like under that kind of zone. And it's really hurting us. As not only are the Suns just too short to defend or anything, it really starts making you wonder why we went into this direction of getting these guys. And well, the answer to that is because they're sharp shooters. They can hit threes. Grayson Allen was able to hit a lot of threes. Tyus Jones is money from the three this season. He was really great, but they just continue to not consistently knock down those threes to justify it. We just continue to not be able to play defense. And Grayson Allen is like the first guy off of our bench. He's the sixth man, and Tyus Jones is a part of our starting lineup. So it gets really bad when you get to those. Monte Morris is also one of our bench guys, and it's really questioning the way this Suns team is built, and we're definitely going to need some trades in that department just to get bigger. All right, we're too short to be dealing with all this kind of nonsense, and it's getting quite tiring. So that is why the Suns are suffering right now. It's a meltdown, I would say. All right, that's completely in my opinion. The Suns are in dire need of change. And whether or not they make those changes is up to the Suns office themselves. But if they don't, the Suns are a guaranteed elimination or play in player. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. As tonight, the Phoenix Suns fall even closer to being 500 and are 14-13, which after this game, all games are currently finished. So that puts the Suns right in the elimination category. We are the 11th seed and would miss the play-ins. It is dire right now, people. The Suns need change, and they need it now more than ever Because let me remind you, our next game is in Denver. The next game is on Christmas. Merry Christmas, guys. We're almost there. I hope you're having a happy holidays. Um, because the Suns are going to ruin it, potentially, as we face Denver, and then Dallas, and then Golden State, and then Memphis, and then Indiana. It doesn't get any easier from here. And the way I'm talking about the Suns, they definitely need a change. But if they literally don't make that, the Suns are going to be suffering for the rest of this December and early into January. A very much dire month in the calendar of this season, right? So that's pretty much it for tonight. The Suns have they just got out hustled. That's also another reason that the Suns lost this game, despite KD's amazing 43-point game. It just still isn't enough. Again, this game's just the Suns are fundamentally flawed right now, and they can't get past that. Unless they if they can't get past that, then we're all screwed. I mean, does any of these numbers really matter? I usually take time to read these stat sheets during every video, uh, but does it really matter if the Suns at the end of the day still lose? It's amazing. KD dropped his 43, but it just doesn't bode well for what direction they're heading in. So KD 43, Bill had a uh, he had a lot more aggressive game, and I definitely like to see more of that from him. 26 for Beal. Tyus Jones for a long time was perfect from the line. He missed one shot. 19 answered his bad game from Indiana. Very much loved seeing that. Royce O'Neal had an all right game, 11 points. Yusuf Nurkic didn't get a triple double, and honestly, it just looked awful. Yeah, I'll admit that. As a Nurkic fan, yeah, he had an awful game. And then not much production from our bench. Although I will say Ryan Dunn was a breath of fresh air on this team. It's definitely uh, when you're trying to win these types of games, you need to match their energy. And Ryan Dunn was the only one able to be a fresh breath of air out on the bench. Basically, because he's a rookie and he played some incredible defense during that third quarter against Cade Cunningham, and was a really good sign to switch things over to the Suns and try to get momentum for them. But it was all in vain, as it didn't really lead to anywhere, as the Suns are still flawed. And there's really nothing else notable about the Suns that game. I've said it all already, that the Suns are just flawed right now. All right, that is the Suns situation. It's a dark situation to be in, especially when we're supposed to be in our championship. And what the Suns would say, if you listen to our promotion material, the golden age of the Phoenix Suns. You know, Suns up. Well, so far this season hasn't lived up to it. Well, that the first half of the season was pretty good. The rest of it hasn't. So that is why the Suns are suffering right now. Suns lose two in a row. We'll be back here uh, December 23rd. We will be sneaking steadily up to close to Christmas. So enjoy your Sunday. If you're an Arizona fan, enjoy, and you just if you're an Arizona fan and you just love torture, check out the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not much of a football guy. I don't really know what's going on, but that's pretty tough. But it's Sunday, so enjoy your Sunday. Don't let this Suns talk all just demean you or just like get you down in these past couple of days. It's at the end of the day, it's just some millionaires playing basketball. It sucks, but whatever. We move on and we live another day. And as I said earlier, the every day is a chance for opportunity. So please enjoy your day. We'll be back here Monday, 23rd of December, once we go into the Mile High City against Denver before our Christmas Day game. All right? Take care, y'all. I don't know why I put a y'all in there, but I will. All right? Enjoy yourselves. See ya.